Hello guys, it's Revolution. Hope you had a great festive season. I've had a nice little break, but now I'm back and it's 2019 and I'm ready to rumble. 2019 is going to be a massive year for Dragon Ball. It's going to be a massive year on Revolution. And here's the first video of 2019 and it's a big one. Did Beerus lie about Goku's power level in episode 5 of Dragon Ball Super? Beerus stated that Goku in his base wouldn't have beat Final Form Frieza from Namek. We're going to talk about that in depth in this video. Now this video right here is going to be the first in several major power scaling videos coming on Revolution concerning the Dragon Ball Super power level rankings. The final video in this series will cover it all. Look forward to it, keep an eye out, stay tuned. But now we're going to talk about whether End of Z base Goku would have been able to defeat Final Form 100% Frieza on planet Namek. This has been hotly contested in many power scaling debates since episode 5 of Dragon Ball Super. Of course, I'm going to have my say, but get your notebooks out, jot down all your thoughts and let me know them down in the comment section. We are going to solve this in this video, but before we begin, let me know who you think's the strongest down in the comment section out of these three warriors: Broly, Beerus or Jiren. Hashtag your choice and state your reasons why down in the comment section. I look forward to reading them. And if you're not subscribed to Revolution, hit that subscribe button and the bell button next to it to be notified whenever I drop new content, and there's some major content coming out over this next month. Keep lending me your energy, smash that like button, lend the Daishinken your power, and come follow me on Twitter and Instagram. What's the worst that can happen? So it goes without saying that Toriyama dropped power levels from his narration after Planet Namek. Now, this doesn't mean that power levels are bullshit, as some would try to tell you, but it just means there are no official power levels after Goku vs Frieza on Planet Namek. So basically, all we really have is fan calculations, and of course, the calculations that I do in this video are by no means official, but they will be my calculations. So listen up, because this is how it's going to go in this video to determine whether Beerus was truly lying or whether it was a far-fetched claim by Beerus in episode 5 of Dragon Ball Super. So, for a comfortable victory with some resistance, there have been many instances where percentage differences have granted the winner a comfortable victory. We have Nappa vs Piccolo, Vegeta vs Dodoria, as well as Zarbon, then we have Raccoon vs Vegeta, and then even Super Saiyan Goku vs Final Form 100% Frieza was a percentage difference where there was clearly a comfortable win. After all, Goku would have got the job done far more comprehensively if he wasn't trying to give Frieza a chance at redemption. So basically, if there's an instance post-Planet Namek in Goku's story from the Android saga leading up all the way to the end of Dragon Ball Z, where Goku has a comfortable victory over an opponent, or somebody that we can compare Goku to who has a comfortable victory over an opponent with a bit of back and forth, we can say that that's a 1.2 times difference in strength, a percentage difference basically. So I'm also going to add this one in. If it's an extremely comfortable victory where it's quite obvious the winner wasn't really trying that hard, we'll say it's a 1.5 times difference. There's the 2 times rule that people often apply in power scaling for Dragon Ball, and that's inspired by the barrier technique, which is stated in the Daisenshu to need a 2 times power difference over your opponent to completely tank an attack, and obviously people apply defense and attack equally when using ki. So we'll use that in this video as well, because I don't believe it's that far-fetched, but if we see an opponent one-shot another or completely tank a powerful attack, then that means they are 2 times stronger than their opponent. Now, I'm not saying any of these multipliers that I'll be using in this video are actually official multipliers. I'm just using them as a guideline, and I don't believe they are that far-fetched. So don't take these values hyper literally, just use them as a guide. And by all means, if you feel like you have a better percentage difference or a multiplier, let me know down in the comments section. And I'm fully aware there have been instances where even higher power level differences haven't necessarily yielded the results I've just stated, but you have to take into consideration the context of those particular instances, as well as the fact those instances aren't the consistency within Dragon Ball. But just to go over that again, a 1.2 times difference for a victory where the winner has a bit of resistance against him but ultimately gets the job done. A 1.5 times difference where he wins comfortably but does receive a tiny bit of resistance. And then a 2 times difference when they're either capable of one-shotting the opponent or completely tanking the opponent's most powerful attack. So let's go. So basically, Frieza had a power level of 120 million in his final form at 100% against Super Saiyan Goku, who had a power level of 150 million, having a 25% power advantage over Frieza. Of course, the Super Saiyan multiplier is a 50 times base multiplier, meaning his base power level would have been 3 million. Of course, after the battle on Namek, it would take Goku approximately
20 months to return to planet Earth. In those 20 months, Goku would arrive on planet Yardrat, live on planet Yardrat, learn impressive techniques such as the instant transmission, and learn to tap into Super Saiyan at will. Goku stated in the Dragon Ball Z manga that it took him a long time to learn how to do this. And of course, he also had to travel back to Earth as well. But that doesn't necessarily mean he couldn't increase his base power. After all, in an alternate timeline, Goku does destroy Mecha Frieza without Trunks' intervention, and Mecha Frieza believed that he could defeat Goku based on what he saw on planet Namek. So that suggests that Mecha Frieza's power level is most likely equal to or above Super Saiyan Goku's power level on planet Namek of 150 million. So let's be generous here and take Frieza for his word. Let's say he has 1.2 times the power level of Super Saiyan Goku on planet Namek, which would put Mecha Frieza's power level at 180 million, or future Trunks diced and sliced Mecha Frieza with relative ease. However, in the manga there was a bit of back and forth, so let's say another 1.2 times multiplied for future Trunks power as a Super Saiyan. That would put his power at 216 million. However, for the sake of simplicity for this video, we're going to round it to the nearest 5, which will be 215 million. Now there's a big misconception of Goku's encounter with future Trunks, where future Trunks attacks him with his sword and Goku blocks it with a finger. Now, people often take that for meaning that Goku was far stronger than future Trunks. Now, it was never actually implied that he was. He actually stated that future Trunks was holding back whilst doing this, so it's not a great encounter to power scale off. So I think it's best to say that future Trunks as a Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan Goku were at relative power levels give or take, considering they were both capable of pulling off the same feat of destroying Mecha Frieza. Once again, that will put Goku's power level as a Super Saiyan at 215 million. Divide that by 50 to get his base power level of approximately 4.3 million, meaning that since planet Namek, his base power has grown approximately 40%. So I know there's going to be two arguments made here. Some people are going to say that Mecha Frieza wasn't 1.2 times stronger than Super Saiyan Goku on Namek, and giving 1.2 times multipliers is still generous. And there's going to be others saying there's no way Goku only grew 40% with potentially up to 20 months of training. But don't forget, he learnt the instant transmission, he learnt how to tap into Super Saiyan at will, and there's been other occasions where Goku's power hasn't grown that great in longer distances of time. There's been occasions where he has grown far more than that in even shorter amounts of time. Obviously, Goku's growth serves the plot, but of course we're trying to measure Goku's growth in power after planet Namek to fit in with what Beerus says and see whether it truly is far-fetched or not. Obviously, Goku would spend 3 years training in preparation for the androids and an imminent threat. 3 years is a long time to train, but he didn't specifically have an opponent that was around his level in order to really further advance him. And of course, in his fight against Android 19, we didn't particularly get any feats to suggest how much he'd grown, or any statements either to suggest how much he'd grown, and he ultimately started to suffer from the heart virus that future Trunks told him that he would eventually come across. But he was purely focused on his training, and this was approximately double the amount of time he would have had to train on planet Yardrat. So some of you may call this generous, and definitely let me know down in the comment section if you think it is. I'm going to say that Goku got twice as strong in those 3 years of training. So by the time Goku fought against Android 19, his base power would approximately be at around 8.6 million. Obviously, Goku would be out of action for a while until he trained in the hyperbolic time chamber with his son Gohan, but during that time, there would be a run of fights between the Z Warriors against the androids and Cell that would allow us to scale those against Goku and give us an indication on how much Goku grew before he got into his fight against Perfect Cell in the Cell games. Now, it's during this arc that the Saiyans in particular see a lot of growth due to the imminent threat of the androids in Cell, as well as training in the Room of Spirit and Time. So we've already established that Super Saiyan Goku and Super Saiyan Future Trunks were at relative power levels when Future Trunks first came to the present timeline. I've made a decision and given Goku a generous 2 times boost from his training leading up to the Android saga, but when Vegeta arrives as a Super Saiyan to fight Android 19 after Goku's heart starts to give in, it's stated by Piccolo, and even Goku acknowledges when he gets well again that Vegeta may have surpassed him. So, as we already established, Goku had a power level of 8.6 million after his android preparation training. We'll round that to 8.5 million once again for simplicity's sake. So let's say that Super Saiyan Vegeta was 1.2 times stronger than Super Saiyan Goku. That would pit this version of Vegeta's base form at 10.2 million. meaning his Super Saiyan transformation would be approximately 500 million. Now, Super Saiyan Vegeta eventually fights against Android 18, an eternal model android. Now, the interesting misinterpretation here is because of the anime, people often perceive this fight as Android 18 just showing up and breaking Vegeta's arm. However, in the manga, that wasn't quite the case. Vegeta put up quite a fight, and it wasn't until Vegeta started to fatigue in his Grade 1 Super Saiyan form that Android 18 really started to take over the fight and ultimately breaking Vegeta's arm infamously. So it's likely that Android 18 and Super Saiyan Vegeta were actually at similar raw power levels. Even Piccolo acknowledged that when Vegeta started to fatigue, remember, he was a Grade 1 Super Saiyan at the time, that was when Android 18's infinite energy really started to dominate the fight. That's the insane thing about Android 17 and Android 18. You could be at a relative power level to them, but if you get into a fight and are fighting even over them for 1 minute, your stamina will start to decrease. After 1 minute, let's say you're at 90% your full power due to fatigue, they're still at 100%. You have to either completely overpower and injure an android, as Toppo acknowledged in the Tournament to Power. He tried to defeat Android 17 in one shot when he realised Android 17 had infinite energy. That's why he changed into his full power mode, and Toppo was succeeding until Frieza's intervention. Basically, an android does have infinite energy, but that doesn't mean they can output an infinite amount of energy at once. There seems to be a cap on how much they can output, but given what we've seen in the Tournament of Power of Android 17 and 18, it seems that they can increase that through training. The androids are quite frankly deadly. So in terms of raw power, whilst Android 18 and Super Saiyan Vegeta seem somewhat relative, give or take, until he starts to fatigue and it becomes very clear to the Z Warriors that Vegeta's about to die. Future Trunks intervenes as a Super Saiyan, attacks Android 18 with his sword, and you can argue using a sword is pretty much a kill shot, and she completely tanks the attack. Remember what I said about that 2x barrier rule? And then of course Android 17 floors Super Saiyan Trunks with one blow. Now obviously Goku trained for 3 years in preparation for the androids, whereas Future Trunks went back to his timeline and most likely came back quite quickly, but to the right time once the time machine was back to being fully prepared. It's unlikely he had anyone to train with like Goku, or even had the time to train considering the androids were terrorizing his planet. Of course, by no means am I saying that Future Trunks didn't get stronger before he returned. I'm just saying it's unlikely that he's as strong as even Goku in base or Vegeta in base at this point in time. However, what we do know is that Android 17 is even stronger than Android 18. By how much we don't particularly know, but Android 17 is the stronger sibling. Let's give Android 17 another 1.2 times boost over Android 18. Now remember, these androids are equivalent to Super Saiyans in their base, not that they have a transformation, but you get what I mean, in their natural state. So by these calculations, for a Super Saiyan to be equivalent to Android 17 in his base, it would need a base power level of approximately 12.5 million. Now this is where things get interesting. Piccolo then fuses with Kami and becomes a Super Namekian. It is stated by multiple sources that Piccolo is on par with Android 17 in terms of raw power. It must be notified that before he fights Android 17 in one of the best fights in the entire Dragon Ball franchise, he actually meets Imperfect Cell, who is weaker than him by a considerable distance at that point. Of course, Cell escapes and continues absorbing human life force. We then see a brilliant fight between Android 17 and Kami fused Piccolo. That fight is pretty much a tie, but then they are attacked by Imperfect Cell, who has absorbed enough life force to become even stronger than Android 17. Now this version of Cell breaks Piccolo's neck and mollywops Android 17 and ends up absorbing him, becoming Semi-Perfect Cell. Imperfect Cell decimates these two with such ease, and I don't think it's even generous to say that at this point Cell is twice as strong as even Android 17 in terms of raw power. So that means for a Super Saiyan to be relative to this version of Imperfect Cell would need a base power level of 25 million. Of course, before he actually absorbs Android 17, he fights against the even stronger Android 16. These two are pretty much on par with each other, but he ends up absorbing Android 17 and then literally dominates Android 16 with his Semi-Perfect Cell transformation, where he absolutely peppers Android 16. So once again, I'm not afraid to say he's twice as strong as Android 16 at this point, meaning that a Saiyan would need a base power level of 50 million, then turning Super Saiyan with the 50 times multiplier to be able to compete with Semi-Perfect Cell. Of course, Vegeta comes out of the Room of Spirit and Time and is stronger than Semi-Perfect Cell. However, this is where things start to get a little more complex, because obviously Vegeta has used an ascended version of the regular Super Saiyan state, and he's using Grade 2 Super Saiyan. Saiyan. It's been stated in many sources that this transformation is stronger than regular Super Saiyan. Of course, we don't know how much by, but given the fact that he goes straight into Super Saiyan Grade 2 rather than try to fight Cell as a regular Super Saiyan, that just tells you that it's because of this transformation that Vegeta's able to overpower semi-perfect Cell. Now, when Vegeta's powering up to Super Saiyan Grade 2 from Super Saiyan, Piccolo is witnessing the increasing ki that Vegeta's putting out, and he mentions this multiple times. Now, we're going to stick to a percentage increase on Grade 2 at the moment. I'm going to say it's 50% stronger than regular Super Saiyan, making it a 75 times base multiplier. Once again, this is not an official multiplier for Grade 2 Super Saiyan. It could be weaker, it could be higher, but I'm having to make a choice here for the sake of this video. And I'm also very aware that some people believe Grade 4 Super Saiyan is 500 times base. I am not one of those, and I do explain that in a video I did with Goku on his channel. Do go check it out. But it's abundantly clear that Grade 2 Super Saiyan is stronger than Grade 1 Super Saiyan. So I'm going for 75 times base because it's in between regular Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan 2, which is 2 times that of regular Super Saiyan. So as I've already established in this video, via my calculations of course, that semi-perfect Cell has a power level of around 2.5 billion. Like I said, you would need a base Saiyan with a power level of 50 million and then transforming to Super Saiyan, multiplying that 50 million by 50 to become 2.5 billion to match this version of semi-perfect Cell. Well, Vegeta is stronger, so we're going to give another 1.2 times increase over semi-perfect Cell for Super Saiyan Grade 2 Vegeta, hitting Vegeta's power level in Super Saiyan Grade 2 at 3 billion. And like I said, with the provisional multiplier of 75 times for Super Saiyan Grade 2, that would put his base power level at 40 million. Of course, it would allow semi-perfect Cell to absorb Android 18 to become perfect Cell, and perfect Cell piped Super Saiyan Grade 2 Vegeta with little to no difficulty. I don't believe I'm exaggerating when I say this, but I believe perfect Cell is twice the power level of Super Saiyan Grade 2 Vegeta. Of course, Vegeta would hit him with a final flash, which ultimately would have killed Cell if he weren't able to use Piccolo's genetics and regenerate. How was Vegeta able to do this if Cell had twice the amount of power that Vegeta had? Well, as I've discussed many times on my videos, certain moves or techniques amplify the user's power beyond their actual full power. For example, Goku's Kamehameha has at times amplified Goku's power 2 times or more beyond his actual power level. The final flash is an even more powerful move than the Kamehameha. So basically, for somebody to match up to perfect Cell as a Super Saiyan, their base power would literally need to be 102 million times 50 for the Super Saiyan multiplier, which would make a power level of 6 billion. Anyway, after fighting against Super Saiyan Grade 3 Future Trunks, even after conceding that Future Trunks' power in Super Saiyan Grade 3 far exceeded even his own power as perfect Cell, of course Future Trunks was simply just too slow to even land a hit. Trunks eventually gave up. Goku and Gohan will come out the room of spirit at time themselves. They will have achieved the full-powered Super Saiyan, otherwise known as Grade 4 Super Saiyan. Basically, it's just regular old Super Saiyan with exemplary ki control. Ultimately, no unnecessarily wasted energy. Now, I know this is controversial, and you really do need to check out Goku's video on why Super Saiyan is not a 500 times multiplier to get my full views on why I don't believe Super Saiyan Grade 4 is any more than a 50 times multiplier. Now, I'm not going to say I'm ruling out it being any stronger than 50 times. I'm just saying there's nothing that we can use to assert that it definitely is the case. So I'll be using 50 times for the purpose of this video. So for Goku to use a 50 times multiplier and be at Super Saiyan Grade 2 Vegeta's level, we'd have to have a base power of 60 million, except we know he was actually stronger than Super Saiyan Grade 2 Vegeta. So we're going to use that infamous 1.2 times multiplier again, which would put Goku's base power level at 72 million in his fight against Perfect Cell, putting his Super Saiyan state at 3.6 billion, obviously short of the 6 billion that I've said Perfect Cell would have. Of course, Goku gave in and handed the job over to his son Gohan, who was also a Grade 4 Super Saiyan. Of course, Gohan did quite well against Perfect Cell, but ultimately he was still losing until he turned Super Saiyan 2, 2 times that of regular Super Saiyan. So even if we said that Cell Game's base Gohan was relative to Cell Game's base Goku, turning Super Saiyan 2 would actually put him above Perfect Cell's 6 billion power level if Goku's power level was at 3.6 billion. With with these calculations that I'm using, once again not official, Super Saiyan 2 Gohan would have a power level of 7 billion as opposed to Perfect Cell's power level of 6 billion, more than enough to take Cell down, just as he did. Of course, Perfect Cell would eventually become Super Perfect Cell after regenerating after self-imploding, but it still wouldn't be enough to beat Gohan, so you could say his power level has gone up to
around 7 billion through Zenkai's. Cell's rate of increase never seemed to follow any pattern, it simply served the plot, it was very sporadic.
As he was relative to a weakened Super Saiyan 2 Gohan after Cell broke his arm whilst Gohan was defending Vegeta. So with the calculations that I've used for this video, Goku has a power level in base in the Cell games of 72 million. Of course, Frieza had a power level of 120 million on planet Namek. Of course, Goku would easily defeat Frieza at this point as a Super Saiyan with no difficulty. But based on these calculations, in base, he's still weaker than Frieza. But he would need to make up another 50 million in terms of power level by the time Beerus comes to King Kai's planet, and we still have the Buu saga to go through. Well, after Goku teleports a self-imploding Cell to King Kai's planet and dies there, he trains on King Kai's planet for 7 years. Of course, that's an extremely long time. Surely he must have got a lot stronger. So, on to the Buu saga. In the Buu saga, adult Gohan was stated by Vegeta to be weaker than what he was against Cell. Now, Gohan can still access Super Saiyan 2, but he's fighting against Dabra, who was also stated to be on Super Perfect Cell's level. So you could say that Super Saiyan 2 adult Gohan is relative to Super Perfect Cell from the Cell games, as it seems that Super Perfect Cell, Demon King Dabra, and Super Saiyan 2 adult Gohan all seem relative in power. Well, when Goku's fighting against Majin Vegeta and he turns Super Saiyan 2, that is what sparks Vegeta to say, well, you have surpassed Gohan. And the most powerful we've ever seen Gohan was against Cell in the Cell games, so I'm going to assume that's what he was referring to. But it was only as he turned Super Saiyan 2 that Vegeta made this claim. As a Super Saiyan, he wasn't considered stronger than Gohan. So let's say that Goku is once again 1.2 times stronger than what Super Saiyan 2 Gohan was against Super Perfect Cell in the Cell games. That will put Super Saiyan 2 Goku's power at 8.4 billion. Divide that by 100 for the Super Saiyan 2 multiplier, that would put his power level in base at 84 million at the beginning of the Buu saga. Let's be generous and say it was a 1.5 times boost over Super Saiyan 2 Gohan's power against Super Perfect Cell in the Cell games, or that would put his Super Saiyan 2 power level at 10.5 billion, meaning he would have a base power level of 105 million. Once again, still not enough to take down Final Form Frieza on Namek. You might be able to edge it a little bit higher, but you can't make it 2 times that of Super Saiyan 2 Gohan in the Cell games, simply because Vegeta needed Goku to turn Super Saiyan 2 before he made the statement. In 7 years, Goku didn't even increase his base power twice what it was at the end of the Cell games. Now I know that seems absurd, but when you think about it, he spent most of his time on King Kai's planet whilst dead in those 7 years, achieving Super Saiyan 2, not just that, but achieving Super Saiyan 3, which he stated took him a long time to do. So his focus was powering up through transformations, and of course there was no imminent threat either. So how much power did Goku gain throughout the rest of the Buu saga? Well, after his fight against Majin Vegeta, in which he recovered with a Senzu beam, you could argue he got a Zenkai boost, but we know that Zenkai boosts started to diminish after Planet Namek. It was no longer used as a tool to further the power of the characters. Transformations kind of took its place. That's not to say that he didn't get any though, and of course he may have got adaptation boosts during the fights themselves. He also fought against Fat Buu in his Super Saiyan 3 state, but of course he didn't get particularly hurt in that battle, so there's no real reason to give him a major Zenkai boost for that one. And then of course he didn't really fight again properly until he fought against Kid Buu.
Of course you could point out that he fused with Vegeta to become Vegito to fight against Buuhan, but that wasn't Goku himself. And when he did fight against Kid Buu, you could definitely make a case for him getting a big Zenkai boost there. The problem is, can you put a number on that?
Considering how much he grew in 7 years of training on King Kai's planet, does that really put him at Frieza's level of 120 million? Does that grant him an extra 30 million power in his base? It could do, but at the same time, it also might not have done.
And in terms of the narrative, it doesn't necessarily need to. Of course, some people may argue and point towards feats that occurred during the manga, and one particular one that would come to mind is Goku lifting the Z sword in his base. However, how the manga and the anime depicted this differed greatly. Gohan was in Super Saiyan 2 when he managed to unearth the Z sword. However, in the manga, Goku struggled to lift the sword, commenting on how heavy it was, and only really swung it once and then gave it back to Gohan. Gohan initially pulled this sword from the ground in his Super Saiyan, trained with it for a while in his Super Saiyan state to get used to handling the sword, and eventually was able to handle the sword with ease in his base. However, Kibito couldn't hold the sword at all, and before Gohan pulled the sword from the ground as a Super Saiyan 2, it was stated in the Daizenshu that Kibito could hold his own against base Gohan. Kibito was also not one of the Kaioshin mentioned when Shin stated that 5 Kaioshin used to exist that could one-shot Frieza. Base Goku at this point should be far stronger than base Gohan before he pulled the Z-Sword from the ground, and he could only swing it mildly. This feat simply isn't a good enough feat to dictate whether or not Goku had to pass Frieza in his base at that time. You could also argue that unearthing the sword was a more difficult task than actually wielding the sword itself. And of course there's that galaxy busting feat received by Buu in the anime of Dragon Ball Kai. However, that didn't quite go down in the manga of Dragon Ball Z either. Shin, the Supreme Kai, stated that there was a Jin, of course referring to Majin Buu, who destroyed hundreds of planets within a few years. Vegeta responds to that even a Saiyan could do that. Now Vegeta's referring to regular Saiyans that were living on planet Vegeta before Frieza destroyed it. However, Shin stated that there were 5 Lords of Lords, Kaioshin, that would have been able to stand in Buu's way, and of course Buu trampled over them anyway, and that's why a Saiyan wouldn't have been able to achieve what Buu did. But without that obstacle of the Kaioshin, a Saiyan would have been able to achieve what Buu achieved during that feat that was demonstrated in Dragon Ball Kai. So going off what we've read in the manga from Toriyama's pen, it's unlikely that this particular feat that Buu achieved was a galaxy busting feat as it was demonstrated in Dragon Ball Kai. Now, I'm not going to say that Buu tier characters can't destroy a galaxy. I've said many times in my videos that destructive capacity in Dragon Ball doesn't grow linearly with the increase of ki, it grows exponentially. I've provided many examples throughout videos on my channel. But what I'm trying to advocate is none of these necessarily render Beerus' statement in episode 5 of Dragon Ball Super incorrect. So what I would like you to take away from this video is not the power levels that I've suggested. Like I said, these are not official power levels, they're just a guide to give you a sense of how much they could have grown. I may have highballed it, I may have lowballed it. Let me know your thoughts on that. You could squeeze some of those numbers that I've used, you could even gas some of those numbers that I've used. But what I'm trying to say is there are ways to lower Goku's base power level in order to fit with Beerus' statement. And of course, considering it came from the source material itself, if it isn't heavily contradicted by other events in the source material, of course in this case the Dragon Ball Z manga, then the statement from Dragon Ball Super stands. With all this being said, all the characters really do is advocate the story that the writers or author want to tell us, and they do that through giving us dialogue from the character's point of view. And Beerus is a powerful character that can serve as a reference point to measure Goku's base power alongside Frieza's power, as he knows both of them at this point. Was Beerus goading Goku into showing more power? I'm sure he did want to see more power, but ultimately wanted to see the Super Saiyan God's power, and it's usually revealed further down the line in the narrative that a character was lying, just as it was at the end of the Battle of Gods when it was revealed that he was lying against Goku to bring out more of Goku's power. So, given everything we've discussed, I do not think Beerus was lying about Goku's power level in episode 5 of Dragon Ball Super. Now, it could be that Goku has a power level of 120 million in base come the moment he meets Beerus on King Kai's planet, maybe even has 130 million. Maybe Beerus doesn't see that as enough for Goku to beat Frieza. Even beyond Frieza's power level, he's a pretty durable guy. And for the final time, the purpose of the calculated power levels in this video are just to give you a sense of how much Goku may have grown throughout the course of Dragon Ball Z and aren't to be taken hyper literally. As far as I'm concerned, for Goku to be stronger in his base, he would have needed a massive Zenkai boost in the Buu saga, and for me that was just never implied. And as I always say, you cannot assert a mid ball, you cannot assert a high ball, you can assert a low ball though. Regardless, with the introduction of Super Saiyan God in Dragon Ball Super, with the introduction of God Ki and training with the likes of Whis, the rates of power level growth changed completely. And of course, we'll be covering that here on Revolution over the next month. Remember, this is the first video leading up to the ultimate power scaling rankings for Dragon Ball Super. Stay tuned. But given everything we've talked about, I do not think Beerus was lying about Goku's power level. I hope you enjoyed this video. Do let me know what you think down in the comments section. Do you agree or disagree? And let me know all your reasons why. Smash that like button, lend me your energy, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Until next time, Ad Astra.